Welcome back to the Cavecast, guys, the uncensored show for nerds of all kinds. Tonight, I am joined again by Bartholomew, the connoisseur of big glasses, and tonight we are going to be talking about Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers, part 2 of the Wholesome Trinity.
I was like, wait, part 2? I was like, we've never talked about Mr. Rogers.
I'm going to change the title. It'll be great.
Oh, okay.
But it's the first chapter we technically have done of this is of Bob Ross.
Yeah.
Bob Ross is the portion of the Wholesome Trinity that taught us everything about art. Taught us that you be yourself.
He was
flow out of you.
He was the Mr. Rogers of painting.
Yes.
I mean, that's almost like even kind of, I don't mean like voice wise, but like sounded the same. They had they were just very soft spoken, very easygoing individuals. And that's where they kind of shined actually, which was weird. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
it's such a rare thing anymore that we get to focus on people that are just truly wholesome. And, it's a refreshing thing, compared to just, to like even back when this, his show and he was very active, and we're going to learn a lot about some things that he did that didn't necessarily relate to the show. He did some pretty incredible things. One thing in particular, and then he set bars for what TV became as far as like, entertainment for children. So
let me start this off real quick. Is, guys, I was not a Mr. Rogers fan. I was more of I like picture or picture, whatever it's called.
Picture, yeah.
And I would watch like some other stuff with it, but I was not a Mr. Rogers fan, and there was, I don't know why. I know it was a good show, but so tonight, guys, I'm going to be learning along with you, and I don't know how much input I'm actually going to have, but I do know that as I got older, I realized what an impact a show like that, and specifically Mr. Rogers, had.
Yeah.
We'll probably get into this, but when I lived in Pittsburgh, I did learn a little bit, kind of about it. They actually have like a parade or something like every year. And there was a girl telling me about that Fred had already passed, but the guy that is Mr. McFeely was down, and he was like, even after the parade, he was walking around and he stayed in character. If you called him Mr. McFeely, he would
speedy delivery.
Yep.
Yeah.
And she was like, you were my childhood. This girl was like 25 at this time.
Yeah.
And
that was how many years ago that this happened?
Probably about 10.
Okay. Yeah.
Probably about 10 years ago. And, it was just, even then she was like, he still does it every year. The people that are still around are still alive. They were still doing it. Now I know with COVID and everything, maybe they didn't, but it was just like, she was like, he did what all the kids and now adults want. He was Mr. McFeely. He wasn't whoever he really was. Yeah. And he loved it. He loved it. And I've heard that about all the cast members, that they truly enjoyed what they did. So
that's what made that show just brilliant. Now, to be fair, I did not get into like when it was like black and white, like first starting, like it was, like so. But I mean, because there's like iconic like images that have been taken out of context with him like giving the finger. That's not at all like what he was doing. It was the finger game they were doing, and he just happened to have his fingers up. So it's because I saw a GIF of Mr. Rogers flipping the bird, and I was like, whoa, that just like that alone.
Wait, did that really happen?
Yes. What it was that it was a very, very early episode. I'll show it to you later. If we had a way to cast the screen, I would show it, but
we'll get there, guys.
We'll get there. But it was some kind of game that he was playing with, I think it was a teacher and some of the school children. And what it was that it wasn't you gave the finger. It was the idea that you had to stop in different patterns. And there was like a nursery rhyme that went with it. And it was like, and you had to put fingers down or something.
Okay.
So like it was completely taken out of context. He did not give the finger, but
that's still weird that you would that they would go that way though.
Yeah, it's so when you watch it, it makes sense. But when it's like you're just like, whoa, like still even you're like he's
still giving the finger. Yeah.
So when it comes to Mr. Rogers, I just remember always loving it whenever I would get to watch his show.
Okay.
And it was consistent. Every show, you knew what the structure was. You knew what was going to happen. I wrote it down earlier to kind of like remind myself, but he always came out with his opening song of like, "It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood." He would sing to you. He would change from his work clothes or whatever to
his house clothes and like, his house shoes.
Yes, and like he always threw it to the one side, and like there was the sound effects that went with it. And
bro, Mr. Rogers was fired. Like I don't know why I was such a dick about it. Like. I mean, like honestly, I was outside playing with like G.I. Joes and blowing them up and shit. Right. So like that's what I was doing.
He was Sid from Toy Story. That's essentially kind of like the thing.
That's a really good way. Okay, yeah. But no, like I said, once I got older, I realized how good Mr. Rogers was. So this is gonna be like a weird trip down memory lane, but not like an actual memory lane. I know that sounds weird, but like it was always on because of you as well.
Yeah.
And Mom always loved it as just in general. She tried to get me to watch it and I was like, fuck that.
Yeah. But I just remember being so impressed by like the fact that I didn't realize that a lot of the puppets were played by his voice. And like, it was just, I was just lost in it when I was a kid.
You don't think about that.
It was just like, I believe that these are real characters and it's like, I want to know what happens with them. And like, it was really cool. But
what was it? King Arthur and
oh God, there was, I think, Princess Tuesday, I think was the one.
Yeah.
It was like there was like a bunch of different characters that was like, and what I loved about it was that the adults interacted with them. So it was believable. And it's like, you're like, well, they're adults. Like, like I can pay attention to this though.
With the Mr. Trolley.
The trolley. Yep. So right off the rip, did not know this about Fred Rogers, but Fred McFeely Rogers was born March 20th, 1928, and passed away February 27th, 2003. Also known as Mr. Rogers, he was an American television host, author, producer, and a Presbyterian minister. He was the creator, showrunner, and the host of the preschool television series Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, which ran from 1968 to 2001.
Really?
It was on for that long, dude.
Bro, he only didn't do it for 2 years before he passed away?
Yeah.
Wow.
He was dedicated. He was that kind of like when I read that, because I kind of skimmed through this earlier.
He's been gone almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's just that's insane.
That's Fred McFeely. That's okay.
Yeah, Mr. McFeely.
Mr. McFeely.
I think that what you're going to see through this is you're going to see a lot of consistency of what he did with his art and like how he kind of put himself into a lot of it, but it was believable.
Let me guess, was he like born on a Tuesday or something?
No idea. But,
okay. I didn't know if it it got that deep with it or something with his art and like how he did things.
But what it says here is that he was born in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, near Pittsburgh. Rogers earned a bachelor's degree in music from Rollins College in 1951. He began his television career at NBC in New York, returning to Pittsburgh in 1953 to work for a children's program at NET, later made into PBS. The television station WQED. He graduated from Pittsburgh Theological Seminary with a bachelor's degree in divinity in 1962. I'm sorry. Well, he graduated with a bachelor's degree in divinity in 1962 and became a Presbyterian minister in 1963. So like he did a lot of schooling, like he, from music to, his personal beliefs to everything. He was just, he was a very, very intelligent man, but he was a very, very kind-hearted man. Then it's just the summary of his bio up here. It says, Rogers died of stomach cancer on February 27, 2003 at the age of 74. His work in children's television has been widely laughed and received. Oh my gosh, laughed. I can't fucking read. The chord's in the way. I was trying to read over it. He has been widely lauded, and he received over 40 honorary degrees and several awards, including the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2002 and a Lifetime Achievement Emmy in 1997. He was inducted into the Television Hall of Fame in 1999. Rogers influenced many writers and producers of children's television shows, and his broadcasts have served as a source of comfort during tragic events, even after his death. So that's basically we're going to get more specific, but that's kind of like the broad sense of his life and
when
kind of things that were going on.
You think about, we briefly talked about this last night, I think. When you think about like a kid's show, like nowadays, there is. I sat there and really tried to think. Now, it's not like I just pay attention all the time, but like I sit there and even now, like, what the fuck did everybody house Teletubby and Barney and no, Mr. Rogers. That's why I said it's fire. Like,
everybody watched Mr. Rogers.
I don't understand. That's why I said I don't understand why I was so put off by it. That show will never be able to be duplicated, no matter what.
No.
That's the one show that was the most original thing ever. Everything else is just a copy. But the fact that you don't get people like Fred Rogers anymore.
No, I
mean,
mean,
just don't.
Well, I mean, we talked about, one of our buddies that said that we're like, I remember being at this friend's house, and somehow we got on the subject of Mr. Rogers, and he just let out this sigh and shook his head, and he's just like, they just don't make him like they used to, man. They don't. He's like, there will never be another man like Fred Rogers.
No,
it's just like he was literally 1 in a billion. Like, it just he
is responsible. I just realized that moved.
Careful,
it's in the shot.
It'll be all right.
You saw nothing.
You fixed it. It'll be okay.
You saw nothing. I thought I saw something out of the corner of my eye. It's been there the whole time. Anyways, no, like Mr. Rogers was just one of those people that I don't know. Even with the little bit that I watched and remember, but I always, you would see the repeats or probably new episodes. Shit, I didn't realize it was on that long.
Yeah.
I thought it ended like in the 90s.
He is kind of like the Bob Ross thing where it's like there's 1,400 episodes. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, there was just content just pouring out of them.
It's just one of those things where the way that he is responsible for shaping so many of our youth and just all of our children. Honestly.
Yeah.
There's not one show out there that like Chandler watches these like new shows, like, so both the girls have a TV. You'll understand, but it's one of those where that's where they watch their their sleep sounds at night and stuff.
Yeah.
They each have their own section. And they can have, and they're not anything big, but they do have a Fire Stick, so YouTube and stuff works on there. And yesterday when I went over after work, Ashley had just got done repainting her bedroom. Well, Chandler was in her crib. Not a big deal. She was watching her shows. And it's weird because Chandler is not a sit down, let me watch something just for, an hour or two or even, a half hour.
Right.
She'll watch it for a second and then she's done. These new shows that she watches, it's the, like the counting game and, watch my mouth and close up on how we say things. And then it was super fucking annoying, but she was doing it. She was doing it. And it's these new shows. Mr. Rogers didn't have to do that.
No.
He didn't have to repeat and have these. Mr. Rogers had such a unique way of teaching everything. And you understood no matter how old you were.
Yeah.
Within reason.
Well, right.
But yeah.
He dumbed everything down to the point to where it was just like he talked to you like an adult.
Exactly. And that's like these new shows. Mr. Rogers was, that's why I said, I look back and like, man, he is the originator of this stuff because he had such a great way about how he did it. And that's just, I think that's what made him such a legacy as well.
There's some pretty cool things.
Okay.
It's leading right into this. This is so cool. Take everything that we have said, we've talked about, and everything that we've read so far. I looked up just to try to see what I could find of just like whether it was like maybe some facts about him you didn't know, or some really cool fan interactions or things like that. Some of these things have already been talked about in the Wikipedia section we were reading, so some of them are repeated, but it gives a little more of an in-depth. But it's 15 heartwarming facts about Mr. Rogers.
I may have read this before. It's been a very long time, but we'll see.
Number one, he was bullied as a child. According to Benjamin Wagner, who directed the 2010 documentary Mr. Rogers and Me, and was in fact Mr. Rogers' neighbor on Nantucket, Rogers was overweight and shy as a child and often taunted by his classmates when he walked home from school. Quote, he says, "I used to cry to myself when I was alone," Rogers said, "and I would cry through my fingers and make up songs on the piano." It was this experience that led Rogers to want to look below the surface of everyone he met to what he called the essential and visible within them.
So he was a hefty kid.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming either the military whipped him into shape, or his metabolism and like whatever kicked in gear.
Yeah, growth spurt or like, whatever. Yeah.
That's interesting. That's then that's got to be a big reason why he's so like pro like everything, I guess you should say. Like he judges nothing.
That was really hard for me to read, because it was just like when you know who he is, and it's like, we've all been put through the shit in our own different ways of being bullied. I mean, Rob Zombie said it best, was like, life just kind of bullies you in general. He's like, you don't need a bully to bully you.
No, but, that's absolutely right.
But
kids are cruel. Kids are mean.
We might do an episode on bullies. Could be fun.
Kids are mean, man. Little bastards. No,
what's interesting is this next fact about him. The second fact was that he was an ordained minister. We already looked at everything on that. There's nothing really new. But number 3, he responded to all of his fan mail.
I have always heard that. I do know that maybe this, I don't mean to steal your thunder if it's on here, but I do know I saw something on, I follow, sorry kids, if this, I heard today, apparently Instagram's like dead, but like, it's like, nobody does that anymore. But I saw
on Instagram,
I saw on Instagram, I follow like movie facts and, things like that, and trivia and things like that. But one of them had a picture of Mr. Rogers, and I was like, oh, this was like a week or so ago. And it was him standing in front of the fish tank, and it said, Mr. Rogers got a fan mail from a blind girl that was concerned about his fish dying because he never fed them. So he, from that point on, that's why he stated every single time that he was feeding the fish, so that she knew.
That's
right there tells you. I don't even need to hear I don't need to hear 12 other heartwarming facts about Mr. Rogers anymore after that, because that right there shows you he wasn't fake. This was not a persona. This was not a cash grab. This was not anything. This was truly because Fred Rogers wanted to be this person and make this show. He took it that far. He loved every single fan that he had and took the time and to announce that because one person was concerned about his fish.
Yeah.
It's just,
how do you even
you can't compare anybody. He's the closest thing to Jesus we ever got.
Seriously, like in the modern day, like seriously, like
I joke about that, but it really is. It just shows how wholesome he really was. He really truly cared about the children.
Yeah.
And I found this is a weird comparison, but it was funny because we kind of just watched the episode and it made me think about it. We already discussed doing this episode. Sorry, that was a lot of episode talk. Kyle is going through The Big Bang right now. He's never seen it, so we're going through it, and we are on the season. I think season 6,
episode 22.
Jesus,
I think.
he's got it down to. But no, Professor Proton was just on, and the part where Sheldon said, "Well, you mean a lot to me. Every day I ran home, and at 4:00, you were the only thing that was consistent. You were on every day, and you taught me something."
Yeah.
Ironically, that's kind of how Mr. Rogers was. Like that's honestly what happened with kids. It happened with a lot of, unfortunately not me, but with a lot of like my family and everybody around me. That's what they did. It was something that kids looked forward to. And whether they knew they were learning or not, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
He found a way to teach you things and modern day things, even at that, to where you just didn't even realize it. So that made me think about that though, where it was just
Professor
like
Proton.
Well, yeah, but I mean, but at the same time, like that's the truth. He was that big.
Yeah.
Millions of kids, think about millions. That's crazy.
Well, responding to fan mail was a part of Rogers' every regimented daily routine, which began at 5 a.m. with a prayer and included time for studying, writing, making phone calls, swimming, weighing himself, and responding to every fan who had taken the time to reach out to him. Quote, he respected the kids who wrote, in parentheses, those letters, end quote. Heather Arnett, an assistant on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, told the Pittsburgh Post. That was in 2005. Quote, he never thought about throwing out a drawing or letter. They were sacred. According to Arnett, the fan mail he received wasn't just a bunch of young kids gushing to their idol. Kids would tell Rogers about a pet or a family member who had died or other issues which they were grappling. Quote, no other child ever received a formed letter from Mr. Rogers, end quote. Arnett said, noting that he received between 50 and 100 letters per day. He responded to all of them.
Personally, like she said, it was not a cheap secretary made letter that he just sent out, which I get it. If you get a lot of fan mail, it can be hard.
Yeah.
It really can. So I get that. But at the same time, he didn't care. He got up at 5 a.m.
And he still had time to pray, study, write, do business, work out, all that stuff. He did that every single day, and had his wife and his kids and his grandkids. And like, could you imagine like having Mr. Rogers be your grandpa?
Well,
like,
I swear to God, okay, this is going to sound really weird, but
it's not a lie.
Our stepdad's dad, so our grandpa, Fred.
Yeah.
Is Fred Rogers. He even looks like him. I'm
incredible.
Not shitting you.
And he is a man.
Sorry, Fred, if you hear this, because Mom might show you this part, but I didn't mean to swear. Don't watch the rest of the show.
But no, it's incredible. This is actually where this is going to take a little bit of a twist. This is
talking about his tattoos and all the sniper deaths he got.
No, that was actually what's funny enough about that is that Mom actually made up a really good point at one point.
When they went swimming.
Yeah, she's like, he goes to a pool.
Photoshopped. He had all the makeup back then.
But no, that's actually something that I tried to look up to see if we could look at some conspiracy theories, and it's so paper thin. Like it's like, I was kind of like, oh my God, like that'd be crazy. Like if that was the case.
I knew that years ago that it wasn't, because I was like, damn it, I do remember that episode. So even as a kid, but there was he always wears long sleeves. I'm like, he does.
And you know what? Even if that was the truth, good for him, because he's like, I'm not exposing them to that. You know, it's like
used to say it was like all the names of the people he killed and
like naked chicks and like all this stuff. Like,
that would be banging if he did, though.
I'm not gonna lie, dude. I had a major existential crisis when I heard that the first time. I was like,
what?
Fuck
yeah, he did.
Check this out.
Because I heard that the show was his therapy.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that makes sense.
His interest in television was born out of a disdain for the medium. Rogers' decision to enter into the television world wasn't out of passion for the medium. Far from it. Quote, when I first saw children's television, I thought it was perfectly horrible, Rogers told Pittsburgh Magazine. End quote. And I thought there were, somebody screwed up their grammar on this. Oh my.
I hate that when you're like, I know I'm reading this right.
And I thought there was some way of using the fabulous medium to be of nurture to those who would watch and listen. So he hated the content that was out and that was available for kids and went, no, you're doing it wrong.
See,
you're doing it all wrong.
That's what I mean. He looked at that. That's why all these kids' TV shows suck after 2001 when he stopped. Because they had nobody to be like, dude, Mr. Rogers, pick it up.
Right.
Like, follow suit here. Honestly.
I'm very careful on how I say this, but it's like he's kind of like, it's like the aspect of like Eminem. He's done nothing but get better. Mr. Rogers never plateaued. He never de-escalated. He
only
only
got drop.
It's like, oh yeah. Marshall, we love you. He
might see this. Never.
No, he's never going to watch it.
He might be like, Mr. Rogers, fuck yeah.
This was my favorite heartwarming fact about him. And I did not know this. He was colorblind. It says those brightly colored sweaters were a trademark of Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, but the colorblind host might not have always noticed. In a 2003 article, just a few days after his passing, the Pittsburgh Post Gazette wrote that among the forgotten details about Fred Rogers is that he was so colorblind he could not distinguish between tomato soup and pea soup. He liked both, but at lunch one day 50 years ago, he asked his television partner Josie Carey to taste it for him and to tell him which it was. Why did he need her to do this? Carey asked him. Why did he need? Why did he need her to do this? Carey asked him. Rogers liked both, so why not just dip in? Quote, if it's tomato soup, I'll put sugar in it, he told her.
Really?
That was apparently his thing. If he had tomato soup, he liked a little sprinkle of sugar in it.
So, okay. That's interesting because now I understand like I used to eat my tomatoes with salt on them, but my gran on my dad's side, I remember when one of the first couple times I was making fried potatoes at Ashley's when we were like first dating, and I was like, hey, where's your sugar? And she's like, why do you need sugar? And I was like, just where's your sugar? She's like, I don't understand. I'm like, just watch. And Gran, that was like her thing. I don't know if it's a Southern thing or like whatever, but it wasn't like an overabundance, but it was
just a good.
It was. She would just kind of take her hand and just a good, like I don't even know how to explain. Just
a tornado of such.
If people that cook, we know what we're talking.
Was it like that guy, like that meme that was going around with that guy with the salt where he's
Salt Bay, Salt Bay. But it was just a different flavor. So that's interesting that he did that with his tomato soup. I'm gonna try that tomato.
We should make tomato soup like in honor of him and try it and see how it tastes.
That's fine. Tomato soup and grilled cheese is honestly probably one of my favorite.
It's
foods. 100%. I said honestly a lot this episode.
Because this is a very
honest episode
and just amazing episode.
Comment down below how many times I've said it if you've made it this far, and then hit like and subscribe.
You can also check us out on Patreon. So, Here's actually what I think is a good one to end on this particular list. We have one more kind of list to go through. It's just 6 things, but then we're gonna let Mr. Rogers close out the show.
Okay.
But we'll get there. But number 12, kind of jumping around, but Rogers gave George Romero his first paying gig. George Romero, the man who made Night of the Living Dead.
Wait, what?
George Romero.
Wait,
Rogers gave George Romero his first paying gig.
Wait, what?
It's hard to imagine a gentle, soft-spoken children's education advocate like Rogers sitting down to enjoy a gory, violent zombie movie like, Dawn of the Dead. But it actually aligns perfectly with Rogers' brand of thoughtfulness. He checked out the horror flick to show his support for the then up-and-coming filmmaker George Romero, whose first paying job was with everyone's favorite neighbor. Quote, Fred was the first guy who trusted me enough to hire me to actually shoot film, Romero said. As a young man just out of college, Romero honed his filmmaking skills, making a series of short segments for Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, creating a dozen or so titles such as How Light Bulbs Are Made and Mr. Rogers Gets a Tonsillectomy.
Oh, I think I remember that.
The Zombie King, who passed away in 2017, considered the latter his first big production, shot in a working hospital. Quote, I still joke that Mr. Rogers Gets a Tonsillectomy is the scariest film I've ever made. What I really mean is that I was scared shitless when I was trying to pull it off. So he got to help like a major, just horror director that is iconic. Just that George Romero is never going to be forgotten.
Whether he knew that's what he was going to do with his life or not, but I feel like later on in life he went, all right, honey, let's sit down and see what George did. Dawn of the Dead or Return of whichever one it was, I forget now. But he probably watched it.
Yeah.
He probably watched it. He supported his friend and somebody. That's just the kind of person he was. Did he show it to his kids? Fuck no.
No, it's just he was just that's what's just impressive about him is that he understood talent when he saw it. The subject matter was irrelevant for him to look at it like, now for what he would promote to his kids or to the kids on his not on a show, but like they were watching a show, he's not going to talk about that on his show, but he was there.
Yeah.
It's like, I could see a lot of people that I've worked with that if something were to ever happen, that they would probably be at a premiere or be at something. It's like, it's not their cup of tea, but they're there to support me. And it's like, it's that type of thing. But no, it was such a wicked
crazy
thing. I'm like, George Romero. I'm like,
that's
wow.
really cool.
This was the big one.
Okay.
And it's relevant through, everything that's going on now. And to me, this is probably one of the most just straight up, just deal with it things that Mr. Rogers did. And it's well known, but I think it's something that, I don't want to get into anything that is of date. I only want to focus on the pool.
Sorry,
go ahead.
So let me give this when I was a kid, I saw what he's about to explain. I saw this several times up until I was, a certain age. And then it dawned on me what it was.
Yeah.
Didn't realize it because that was the point.
That was the point. Exactly.
So
this is number 6 on this list. And now, guys, all the links are going to be in the description. I know I'm jumping around, but you can find all the details and stuff that's going to be in there. I've got a system now to make sure all the links are consistent. It's great. But number 6, he was helping me dry my feet. It was a quote. Is the title of this one. I'm going to ruin this guy's name, so I'm going to pronounce it as simply as possible. Francis Clemens, who played Officer Clemens on Rogers' show, had the first reoccurring role for an African-American on a children's TV show. Scroll down.
Again, quote, which wasn't weird for me.
Right. So it says, quote, there was one particular scene Fred and I did where he had his feet resting in this plastic pool on a hot day. and he invited me to come over and rest my feet in the water with him. Clemens told the NPR podcast Story Corps, the icon Fred Rogers not only was showing my brown skin in the tub with his white skin, but I was getting out of that tub. He was helping me dry my feet.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was making a very strong statement, Clemens added about the episode, which aired in 1968. And he ended the quote with saying, "And I discovered a friend for life."
That right there was, like I said,
that is a gangster thing to do. Like, he did not care. It was just like, go ahead. What are you going to say?
What are you going to do?
What was wrong with this? There's nothing wrong with this.
And
oh God, it's so great.
That's why I mean, like, as a kid, preteen, and somewhat of a teenager until I was probably like 16, 17.
Yeah.
I never understood why that was such a like iconic episode. And then, like I said, one day it just dawned on me, and I realized, I was like, oh, this is, like you said, he's a gangster.
He is. I'm like, he just, I swear, I hope to God this is true. I think Mom told this to me, that she saw this on so Mom, if this is real, comment below, tell me exactly how you saw it, if it was you. But supposedly Mr. Rogers was walking down the road one day, and I
swear I seen it too. It was like on video.
It was he was with, I think, some television producers or something. They had a camera. They were walking around in New York or Chicago or wherever
something,
they were,
like Detroit or something like that.
It was a bad place of town, and they were kind of like
somewhere you want to be.
Like, it's like Fred Rogers needs to live in a suburb, or Leave It to Beaver is right next door, and like you would never think that he would go somewhere like that. But when he went up to this group of quote unquote thugs, or this gang that they clearly were a gang, or if it like, even if it was just the idea that that's been twisted to, like, you know, be like, oh no, it was this. I don't know. I've never actually watched it. From what I understand, they were hard looking dudes.
Yeah. And
he just walked right up to them and said like something to the effect of like, "Hello, gentlemen." Or was that they came up to them and they went, "Are you Mr. Rogers?"
I think that's what it was. Are you Fred Rogers?
And he said yes. And they were like, dude, they were like children again. And they were just like
hardened gangsters.
Like Mr. Rogers, I watched you when I grew up. Thank you so much. Like it's
now
like,
walk on before I bust a cap in your ass.
Right, just like, get out of here. The Crips are gonna be down here. So, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, it was incredible that this man was. It did not matter where he went.
That's where
he did not care where you were from. He did not care what you looked like. He did not care what you were like. He loved he loved everyone.
Yeah.
And that's an example we should all follow. Like, it's incredible.
You have people like that were, you know, these like kind of thug gangster, you know, whatever. And he still treated them like human beings. He wasn't, like you said, he wasn't afraid of them. But that just goes to show you that, one, he didn't care who you were and what you looked like, what nationality, what color you were, anything, which that's the way the world should fucking be.
Racism wasn't even on his mind.
So let's just get that out of the way. It should just be like that anyways, but that no matter what, I don't know what all nationalities or whatever those people were, because I haven't seen it in a while, but they also knew the same thing about him, that he accepted everybody.
Yeah. They were nervous or like excited to go to him. Like, it's like, are you Mr. Rogers?
Yeah. That goes to show you what an impact that he actually had on the world.
Yeah.
On the world. Like, give a fuck about just Pittsburgh. Like, I don't mean that I want to move back to Pittsburgh. Sorry, Pittsburgh. I didn't mean that. I'm just saying, like, he touched more than just Pittsburgh. Like, it was all over. Everybody knows who Mr. Rogers is. Even if, like, people like me that you didn't watch it.
You know him.
You know it. You know who he is. You know the name. You know the song. You know all of it, whether you want to admit it or not. And that right there shows you, because he touched everybody's lives in some way, shape, or form.
I remember there was one last thing that I wanted to bring up. I believe I think it is in here on Wikipedia. I just want to be sure before I try to quote it without looking at it. But I remember this sounds like I'm off topic, and I swear that I'm not.
Okay.
But yep, here it is. So Congress is a place where that you can go if you want to testify over an issue. It's something that's written into our government.
You saw that video too?
It's something that I have always been aware of, but I've never kind of dived into until now. I wanted to learn with you what it was that he was doing at Congress. Okay. Because
how long is the video?
No. It's we're not watching the video. I'm just going to read it's Wikipedia. They talk about like
there was like a video of him.
It's because I love those videos. The first video that I ever saw of somebody testifying to Congress was Seth Rogen, and I remember being like, okay, like what could he possibly have to say? Like, you know, because I don't
remember that.
I've watched it many times. It's incredible.
Really?
He basically came to he had them laughing. He had them engaged. It was so cool. And basically what Seth Rogen said was that he was like, he had his written statement that, you know, he was prepared with. And he just said, sorry to disappoint everybody, but I am not here on the issue of the legalization of marijuana.
Okay.
He said, however, he said, I am not somebody that you would expect to be here. I'm a man child. I barely finished college. I'm paraphrasing. I don't know if this is like, but it was like, that was kind of the kinds of things. And he just had Congress rolling, dude. It was like, they were like,
interesting. I might have to watch that.
What it was about Alzheimer's, was that there was not enough research and everything, because his girlfriend, now wife, her mother suffered from Alzheimer's, and he said it was the idea that he always perceived it as one thing, but as he got to experience it in his personal life, he realized
it was another.
It was that I think her mom was like 50 or 60.
Oh,
it was
early onset, like dementia and Alzheimer's.
So he has gone and testified, and the big one that I remember was Jon Stewart, and that was something that I was like, oh my, like I can't watch his testimonial video without sobbing when I watch it, because it was about 9/11 workers that when they were fighting through the rubble to save everybody, and when they were the only people that were out there, they all contracted cancer and lung and emphysema issues from it, and Congress wouldn't cover them. A lot of them died.
Jesus Christ.
And Jon Stewart was just like, he's like, their response to being at the scene of the crime to help was 5 seconds. 5. And he's like, you guys can't even, it was actually, they only had half of Congress there. Half of them didn't even show up.
Dude.
So it's like, I've seen a lot of different like celebrities and stuff. Like, I mean, we could do an entire episode about Jon Stewart.
Well, right. But no, that I did not know that, man.
It was incredible. But, it does have the thumbnail for the video, and it says Rogers testified before the Senate Subcommittee on Communications, chaired by John Pastor, on May 1st, 1969. As a part of his testimony, he recites the lyrics to "What Do You Do with with the Mad That You Feel." So the actual information of this is in 1969, Rogers testified before the U.S. Senate Subcommittee on Communications, which gives all the information. Even though Rogers was not nationally known yet, he was chosen to testify because of his ability to make persuasive arguments and to connect emotionally with his audience.
Yeah.
The clip of Rogers' testimony was televised and has since been viewed by millions of people on the internet, helped to secure funding for PBS for many years afterwards.
Because they still get the clicks.
Yep. According to King, Rogers' testimony.
Go watch it. Sorry, yes, go watch it.
Yeah. So it's if I forget to do that, tell me in the comments.
And then we'll go back and
I'll do it. So, but according to King, Rogers' testimony was considered one of the most powerful pieces of testimony ever offered before Congress, and one of the most powerful pieces of video presentation ever filmed. It brought Pastor to tears, and also, according to King, has been studied by public relations experts and academics. Congressional funding for PBS increased from $9 million to $22 million in 1970. Nixon appointed Rogers as chair of the White House Conference on Children and Youth. In 1978, while on hiatus, the Mr. Rogers Neighborhood, he wrote and produced and hosted a 30-minute interview program for adults on PBS called Old Friends. See, my screen just went black. Old Friends, ... New Friends. It lasted 20 episodes, and Rogers' guests included Hoagie Kamikail, Helene Hayes, Milton Berle, Lauren Holidale, poet Robert Frost's daughter, Leslie, and Willie. So he brought on a lot of crazy famous people or like people of that time and everything. But dude, I've never actually sat down and watched all of his congressional thing. I want to now.
I've seen it.
But I mean, and I don't mean this in a shitty way, but it's like, it's going to take a lot to beat Jon Stewart's one, but it's like but even if this video isn't as emotional as what Jon Stewart did, Fred did something amazing to make sure PBS was still there.
Yeah.
For the kids.
It's a different style of like emotion right there. Definitely give it a watch. I watched that probably about a year or so ago. I was like, what the hell is this?
Like Mr. Rogers testified before Congress?
Yeah, I was like, click. So
it's like that alone. It's the whole it's the mentality of I think it was Bill Langford. I was waiting until you were done drinking before I said this.
Okay.
It's one of those titles that just grips you where you're like, wait, what? It was like the whole it was Jeff Foxworthy when he said that a guy got his nipple bit off by a beaver. He's like, the only times that nipple and beaver could be in a title of some sort of news thing, and nobody was offended by it.
Look at it.
So, but dude, Mr. Rogers is something to close, just because that was all the information and everything. Unless if we ramble or if anything else happens, it's just because I say we're on the last point does not mean that we're anywhere near done. But sometimes it does. It just depends. But my old Pastor Brett used to always, whenever he would joke and say, in conclusion, in his sermons, he was usually never done.
Yeah, so, you're like, all right, we got 20 more minutes now.
Sometimes it was an hour, but it was always good. Not that you didn't preach good, Brett. That's not what I'm saying.
No, but it happens.
But damn. Damn. I wanted to end with Mr. Rogers in a way that I feel is the proper way to send him off. If you've never heard about him before this, or if you didn't know anything about him before this,
unsubscribe.
Wow, we just lost so many people.
No, don't do that.
No, but
please go check him out. If you honestly, if you've never, he's right. If you've never heard of Mr. Rogers, never seen an episode, never done anything, honestly, do us a favor. First of all, click on the Congress episode. I did not know that was still a thing.
Yeah,
it does help them, but go watch it.
Yeah,
I was just a jerk about it when I was a kid, so it's a great show.
I've thought a lot about the people, and I because I hate to say celebrities, but the people that we publicly get to watch get worse. Never in a way of the idea of like, oh my God, like, it's like this. It's like, man, like it's getting bad or whatever. Not really so much for Fred Rogers, but the point I'm meaning with this was I remember the very last thing that and Mom knows probably what I'm going to say because I've brought it up so many times. It's something that is a deep memory that I had as a child, and it was Michael Landon from Little House on the Prairie. Michael Landon was always this kind of butch, kind of bigger guy, but, was a very handsome guy. And just, he was, just very kind-hearted, and just, he loved making content that warmed your heart, but challenged you. there was, I mean, Little House on the Prairie is like, it's straight up gangster in some of its episodes, like with what it does. Like
Hate to say it.
He
It's
was
pretty good.
He was one of the first people to ever, do about opium addiction and his kid, like, going through withdrawal. And and it was like, you watch it now, it's not as impactful, obviously, when you compare it to something
Think
like,
about when it came out though.
That like it was what he did with his art was incredible. And I remember seeing him after he was diagnosed with his issues and what was going on with his health at that time. And he was on the Tonight Show, and you could tell he had lost some weight. He had longer gray hair at this point, but he was still in, like he was in good spirits and stuff. And he was, shaking this guy's hand, talking to him. Maybe been John. I don't know if it was Jon Stewart or whoever it was, but he just was. He asked him straight up, like, Michael, like, how do you deal with people that know your diagnosis that are, being cruel or anything? And he said, he's like, quite honestly, he's like, anybody that is going to say, like, Michael Landon, the end is near. He's like, how can you even do that? And that's a very aggressive thing, but it's like he, even at the end of his life, he kept his morality. He was respectful. He didn't go off the panhandle. He didn't do anything. And that was that was not the last thing that Michael Landon ever said, but it was what I remember from Michael Landon. When I think about that, I think about the end of his life. I think about the fact that it's like, man, he did something incredible. With Mr. Rogers, it's not heavy. It's there is this is Fred Rogers' last TV appearance.
Okay.
And he never changed. He never once changed. He loved everyone. And I joke about this all the time, is that it's like, we don't like whenever, like, if you make a really good dinner, I'm like, Eric, I don't fucking deserve you. Like, right. I don't deserve you. Like, it's like, I tell that to my boss all the time. I'm like, cause I know myself, I know my battles, I know my demons, I know my, idiocy and the way that I have my anxiety and like everything with that, where it's like, dude, I don't deserve you. I do not. The human race did not deserve Fred Rogers.
It did not.
But they got him.
And we were lucky enough to be a part of like his actual life when he was that's the thing that people like me, I took for granted, is because he is gone now. You can't just be like, oh, maybe I'll go back and watch all of his YouTube videos and catch up. No, it's over. It's over. He's done his thing, and God has called him home, and we were lucky enough to be a part of that that like era.
Yeah.
So anyways,
is there anything else that you would like to say about Fred Rogers, or anything that you either maybe haven't touched on that you want to go into? Is there anything that you just
no? I think that, other than what I've already stated, is that it took me a long time to realize how good Mr. Rogers was. I'm more like, not ashamed. I guess ashamed. Like I'm disappointed in myself that I didn't take the time to maybe try to watch it more. Mom tried. She tried. She really did. Yeah. Mom tried to get me into those shows. She tried to read to me. I never wanted. Mom, one thing I want for Christmas, I want The Rich Fool. I want whatever copy you can get. That was the only book I would let my mother read to me. The Rich Fool. I think we've talked about this before, but he basically was this, like, I think it's a Bible story, but it was this rich asshole. He had all these people that worked for him, and he worked everybody to the bone, and he died in his sleep, and nobody gave a shit.
The Rich Fool.
It was basically like the summary, but she tried to read to me. She tried to, like, Mom really did try. I just wasn't having it. I wanted the stuff. I wanted it to do things. I wanted to be outside. I didn't want to watch TV like that.
Right.
So
You want to be active.
I
You
wanted to
wanna-
be active.
yeah.
So it just, I'm disappointed in myself that I didn't have more of a Mr. Rogers like background.
Yeah.
Because now it's you could go back and watch, but not you can't anymore.
It is, I mean, obviously with anybody with the illegal hookups to a, Fire Stick can obviously watch anything that they want, but it's just that there's something about just when
I'll drink to that.
Just when you know that, man, Mr. Rogers is at home right now. What's he doing?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, is he, having dinner with his wife? Is he responding to fan mail? Is he reading his Bible? Is he, watching his favorite TV show? Is he having a meeting, or is he or is he outside, just, relaxing,
Eating
in
tomato
nature?
soup with sugar.
Yeah, just it's, regardless of.
I want tomato soup.
Yeah, me too. but no, Mr. Rogers is just an iconic, just amazing person, and I think that he definitely deserves a spot in our creation list of videos of discussion and of just everything that comes with that. And
Mr. Rogers,
I'm out, but yes, cheers to you. It's only 1 minute and 27 seconds long, but we're going to react to it as it happens, and when it's over, we're Mr. Rogers is going to close us out.
Okay,
we're gonna hit stop after that, and we're gonna let him do his thing. So
all right. Before we get started, we will do I know we just cheers to him, but honestly, Mr. Rogers, thank you. I don't know why I'm looking at the camera, but thank you for what you did.
Yeah.
Show me, and for all the children, and hopefully even my daughter in the future to learn. So this is I'll go ahead and let him write it out, man.
All right, here we go.
It happens so often. I walk down the street and someone 20 or 30 or 40 years old will come up to me and say, "You are Mr. Rogers, aren't you?" And then they tell me about growing up with the neighborhood and how they're passing on to the children they know what they found to be important in our television work. Like expressing their feelings through music and art and dance and sports and drama and computers and writing, and invariably we end our little time together with a hug. I'm just so proud of all of you who have grown up with us, and I know how tough it is some days to look with hope and confidence on the months and years ahead. But I would like to tell you what I often told you when you were much younger. I like you just the way you are. And what's more, I'm so grateful to you for helping the children in your life to know that you'll do everything you can to keep them safe and to help them express their feelings in ways that will bring healing in many different neighborhoods. It's such a good feeling to know that we're lifelong friends.